I'm really excited for this panel. We have a variety of different agencies and different fields within public safety present here, and this will be a very interactive, at least I want this to be a very interactive panel. Again, my name is Romeo Durscher. I oversee the public safety integration here at DJI, and it is truly a privilege to work within public safety because this is really the area where we see an immediate positive impact. There is no question that any aerial view of an incident, an accident, a fire, a search and rescue cannot provide a benefit. There's just no question about it. And Commander Madigan with Alameda County Sheriff's Office, he said it's negligent not to use the technology, and that sums it up really well. And over the last 4+ years, I've had the opportunity to learn from within public safety. And one thing is clear, we're still in its infancy. We're still early on in all of this. We still have lots of questions that we need to find answers to, and we still together need to learn. And so hopefully today with this panel, we can share some insights. What I decided to do is a little bit different on this particular panel, because going from public safety conference to summits to workshops, we keep hearing similar presentations. The content is very, very similar. So what we wanted to do is a little bit different. We wanted to provide the opportunity for the panelists to introduce not only their department and what they're doing, but also a particular mission that they use the technology on. And if they could redo that mission, what would they do differently? This is really something I hope can help us as a community learn from those lessons that these individuals have learned over the course of the last several years. And so I'm really excited to do this. We're going to then have a little bit of a Q&A session first with me as the moderator, and then we're going to open it up again to all of you for questions. Again, I'm going to ask if the time's up. Any conversations, we're going to take it outside. Although I'm not quite sure if there's another presentation before lunch. But we just want to make sure that the next speaker, if there is one, will have the room ready to start on time. So without any delays, I'm going to do now the introduction of Chris Sadler, and this one is going to be the toughest one. So I have to tell you a story, quick story. I was a commercial UAV a couple of 3-4 weeks ago, and I absolutely slaughtered the introductions, and it has stuck with me. So for the first time, I'm actually nervous. So Chris Sadler, he is the Deputy Fire Chief with York County, Virginia, Department of Fire and Life Safety, where he has served for over 31 years. Chris represents the International Association of Fire Chiefs as a principal on the National Fire Protection Association, NFPA 2400 Standards Committee on UAS for Public Safety. He is the fire service representative to the Virginia Governor's Secure Commonwealth Sub-Panel for UAS, a vice chairman of the National Council on Public Safety UAS, the AUVSI Trusted Operator Program Public Safety Lead for Fire Rescue. He serves on the ASTM NFPA Joint Working Group for Public Safety UAS and the NSC Unmanned Aircraft System Standardization Collaborative. Chris, thank you. Just for the speakers, please use one of the microphones so that we can record the session. We have a clicker here if you want to sit or if you want to be here.
I gotta move. All right, guys, it's great to be here. I really appreciate the opportunity. Let's just move right on. So my department, our UAS team, is a combination team. We're both fire and law enforcement, and we did it for several reasons. The first being, in our county, the sheriff is elected official #1, but he's also the chief law enforcement officer. So we don't have a police department. We have solely a sheriff's office that does both civil processing, court securities, but also the law enforcement for our county. Being that he's an elected official, when we started our program 2.5 years ago, when drones were still taboo, right? he was able as elected official to go and kind of grease the skids with other elected officials, with our unofficial community leaders, if you will, and kind of feel things out and again grease the skids for what was to be our drone program. That worked out very good for us on the fire side by having that ability, because the fire chief just can't do that. For us, we played a big part on the sheriff's office side of things, because what do people think of when they think about drones and law enforcement? They think about all the bad things that are going to come. They're going to be looking over fences. They're going to be trying to find us doing bad stuff, and you know how all that goes. So the sheriff's office could ride the coattails of the fire department that everybody loves, right, and kind of help get the program going. So we've already heard about me. Our team is made up, we have 22 pilots. They're all Part 107 certified pilots. We operate under a blanket COA, and then we also have a jurisdictional COA for all of Southeast Virginia, the peninsula area. So York County is in Southeast Virginia. We're in between Richmond and Virginia Beach. So depending on the time of day, we're 30 minutes from Virginia Beach or 4 hours, just depending on traffic and people wrecking in the tunnels. So we're in some of what can be considered some of the most complicated airspace. We don't have one gigantic airspace like Dulles or LAX or something, but what we have is a lot of airports. Between 2 international airports, Newport News Williamsburg and Norfolk International, and then a plethora of military airports. So the Norfolk Navy Base, largest Navy base in the world, is right there at us. Langley Air Force Base, home of the 1st Fighter Tactical Wing, Fort Eustis Army Post, various military bases, other Navy bases, the Camp Perry, the super secret training facility. We got a lot of really complicated airspace. So having that jurisdiction COA really pays off great for us. And we've had over 130 missions since we started in June of 2016. And when I say missions and formal demonstrations, it's not the Boy Scout group or the local homeowners group. It's with the 3-letter acronym federal departments. It's with State Department of Corrections, other law enforcement and fire entities. It's more of a formal type thing. And half of those are probably those types of things, and half are probably actual missions that we've been on. Majority of the missions that we go on, even though we're a joint team, it seems as though the majority of them are law enforcement related missions that we do. I'm going to talk about one of them here in a minute. The aircraft that we currently have include pretty much everything that Chief Baker and Garrett just spoke about. We have kind of the same thing. We have a couple of the 600s. We've got the Phantoms, the 210s, Inspire 1s, and the latest one that we just got is the Mavic with the cages and setup for flying indoors. Again, that's what I'm going to talk about in a minute. So I'll talk about it now. This Saturday, 2 weeks ago, we got called out by a local law enforcement agency that I'm working with to help get their program going, the Norfolk Police Department. They had a road rage incident where one guy followed another guy home, ended up shooting him in his front yard in front of his wife and kids. They got a witness, got a license plate number, our first 3 license plate numbers, and they had Ring doorbell video from the Ring doorbells and several of the neighbors down the street. So they got a description of the car. They ran the first 3 license plates until they came across the description of the car, went to the houses until they came across the one. So they got there, law enforcement went up to the house, tried to get into the house. The guy came to the door with a gun in his hand. He turned around and ran back in the house. They heard a gunshot, and that was it. So this was 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. SWAT team and everything got up there. They got set up. They put their bomb robot, big bomb robot inside. House ended up being a hoarding type house. So the bomb robot got all caught up in clothes, other debris. They threw a little GoBot in the window, same thing, caught up in everything. 12 hours later, I got a phone call, wanted to know if we could come in and help them with anything. We spent the first 15 minutes when we got on scene just shaking hands and kissing babies with all the police officers there and getting a layout of what they thought the residents looked like. 7 minutes later, we were over top of the guy in the house. Through the house, down the stairs, into the basement, around the back, and through the horde and into him. In 7 minutes, they were able to clear the scene and be gone. So that's the mission that we had. Really worked out great. And again, we were working with Norfolk to get their program up and running. And I think, in the 2 weeks, they're rolling right along, and they'll probably have their program approved and ready to go here any day now because of that mission. So lessons learned, the SGI system works. The residence that we were flying at was 1,565 feet from the runway of the largest naval air station in the world. And we were able to call, and within 3 minutes, we got an SGI waiver to fly in that airspace. 0 issues at all. A lot of that goes from our ATC partnerships and coordination that we have with all the ATCs in our area, to include our military partners. Ground-borne robots, they certainly have a place, but so do drones indoors. The need to work on prop cages, we did learn some things with the prop cages that we're going to need to go back and we use the DJI prop cages and all, but we found out that mission we went on, there was some things that we need to tweak and get better figured out. And then flying indoors is a specialty skill. It's totally different than flying outdoors. So don't think you can take an indoor drone or an outdoor drone and just go right indoors. There's a skill set that needs to be learned and worked on prior to doing that. So that's my experience in a nutshell.
Thank you, Chris. Next up is Keenan Newton, and he is the UAS coordinator and an instructor for the Lynwood Fire Department in Lynwood, Illinois. He's also the program lead for the MABS-IL US Working Group and brings over 16 years of experience in the fire service, including over 10 years of experience with radio-controlled aircraft and drones, and 15 years of public speaking experience to the table. Keenan is passionate about and advocate for the safe and effective use of SUS in public safety. He hosts the YouTube channel Saving Lives with Drones, which provides proven practices and subject matter expertise on utilizing UAS in public safety. Keenan offers real-world public safety UAS experience, as he has provided UAS assistance to various public safety incidents to include barricaded subjects, search and rescue, wildland fires, structure fires, and disaster recon. Please welcome Keenan.
Good morning, everybody. So just in case you want to know, Lynwood's actually a south suburb of Chicago. And if you're from Chicago, and I guess go ahead and jump right in. So just talk a little about me, kind of skip over the first part, but I'll talk a little bit about our fire department. So we're just a community of 9,000 people. We are not a large department. Our budget's around $300,000 a year. So we're pretty much 100% volunteer. We have 1 full-time staff during the week with weekend shifts. So we're not some big, massive department like Chicago, LA, or New York. We currently have 3 drones that we utilize on our department. They're Inspire 1, a Phantom 3, and a Matrice 600. So that's pretty much what we're utilizing. And what Romeo talked about, Mabus, Illinois, is a mutual aid box alarm system. And in the state of Illinois, we use this process for defining how we're going to do mutual aid between agencies. So we don't have to create separate contracts with all the different neighboring agencies. It's just an automatic thing. So if we need a special technical rescue team, they just come. We don't have to have a contract with a TRT team in order for them to come. So I'm actually in charge of the entire statewide UAS program and the working group, and trying to finalize our guidelines. And we're hopefully going to be rolling that out live to all our agencies first quarter of next year. So that's what our goal is right now. So the subject, the incident I want to talk about is yet another big barricaded subject, but this one was very unique, because not only were we doing kind of situation awareness and trying to discover what the suspect was doing inside, we actually ended up delivering a cell phone via a drone to the suspect. And kind of explain, I'll give a little context here. This man was former EOD, Army EOD. He had quite a bit of experience with explosives, and he set pipe bombs all around his home, the doors, the windows, everything. He had 1 bathroom window that was roughly like that big, that he did not have an explosive set at. And negotiators were trying to talk him down since 11 o'clock. He had already shot at the sheriff who was trying to evict him earlier that day. That's how this whole incident got started. So time's going on, about 3 o'clock I get a call, about 4 hours into the incident, and I was basically asked, hey, can you come out with your thermal imaging camera, because we want to make sure this guy doesn't run as it starts to get dark. So the incident is 90 miles from where we're at, so we had kind of a little bit of drive. That's why they kind of got the ball rolling pretty quick. So I get out there to the scene. I have my the Inspire 1 and the Matrice 600, get them set up, and we started doing some basic just overwatch of the property. Negotiators are still trying to talk the guy down, and I did not know at the time is that they had shut off his power already, and they needed to deliver a cell phone. So they put one on one of those fun bomb squad robots and started going up the driveway. Well, lo and behold, the battery died on that bomb squad robot, and the phone was just sitting there. And no one was really too eager about trying to take a cell phone and hand it through this guy in the window, since he already shot at law enforcement. So, roughly 2-3 minutes after that, Fire Chief Ed Rogers from Utica Fire Department comes up to me and he says, Keenan, can we fly a phone into the window where he could grab it with a drone? And I went, sure, I hope so. So I had just put a drop release system on the M600, and fully admit, Chris Sadler and his department, when I was at a prior conference over in Virginia last year, their entire model kind of inspired of how we actually operate, and we actually just got the drop release system on the aircraft, and we went ahead and tied a rope to it, tied a cell phone to it, and lo and behold, when I hit that little trigger to just test it real quick before I took off, it didn't work. There's a cotter pin that goes to the release pin from the servo, and that thing dropped out. And it was sunset already, it was kind of dark. I was like, uh-oh, this isn't good. So I kind of looked at the chief and was probably extremely pale at this point in time, like, I can't believe this, but this isn't going to work for a little tiny piece of metal. And he went and looked at the EMTs and the rest of the firemen and says, we'll figure something out. So 5 guys just disappear, like, just into the wind. 30 seconds later, one guy comes running, rips open an OB kit, and in there is one safety pin. And that safety pin, I was able to pass right through the hole on that cotter pin to that release pin, and that's what made the release pin actually work. So I still have that safety pin, and I still have that rope that I plan to mount to a plaque of just saying for it, because this ended up being our really, truly first major mutual aid incident for our program. So that pretty much kind of sets the context. One of the things I made sure I did is, I'd never done this before, so if I was going to screw it up, I wanted video to see what mistakes I made, so not to make the same mistakes again. And if it did work well, I wanted to use it as a training aid. So once I got all the video and whatnot, handed it over to the state police, I asked the DA, I was like, hey, can I keep a copy for training purposes? They said, sure. So that's what I'm about to go ahead and show you right now. See if this works. So I'll fully admit, I like to do a little bit of dramatic music, so we'll go with that. So if you can look over here in the corner, right there, you can see the phone dangling on the white cord. It'll be kind of harder to see as it's kind of getting darker. It's kind of a split screen, and you can see the 600 on the left. The reason why I use the 600, this man has been in a house that's over 95 degrees, it's been dark, and he's trying to, pull. I didn't want him to pull an Inspire out of the air. A 600 is going to fight him back. So that's why we use the 600 on this. So you can see I accidentally dropped it into the gutter the first time. Again, I've never done this before, and if you can see during the bottom right here, there's actually a set of power lines that were kind of prohibiting me from just going straight out the window, so I had to kind of get it behind the power lines. You see the prop wash on whatever he had there on that's sitting there on the side. In just a few seconds, what you're going to see is you're going to see it kind of swing out and around, and you're going to see it pull like a fish line. And then I heard 3 people say he's got it. I closed my eyes and hit the release. There's the snap. He's got it. Closing eyes, release. And that's it. 5 hours later, he gave up because the negotiators were able to talk him down. So that's it. So what went well? Obviously, we're probably, I think, I could be wrong, we're the first agency to deliver suspend a cell phone with a drop release and deliver it to a suspect ever. I don't know, but could be the first one. Having that M600 as an extra tool, so it isn't just about having a drone, but making sure you may have the right type of drone for the right type of job. Utilizing other drones as spotters. As you saw, we had the video from the other drone. Their mission wasn't just to record me. It was actually to help spot me because it was dark. What you couldn't see is I was actually down the street by an MRAP, which is a huge armored vehicle. And I was actually, they wanted me to fly it from behind the MRAP beyond visual line of sight originally. I was like, well, I can't really do that. And so what they did is they created a human shield, basically, because all the SWAT team members had body armor. And I literally was ducked down between the helmets of two people and their shoulders and just had a little window just enough to see the aircraft. And that's how basically I was flying it and basically listening via the radio from the other spotters on how I was doing. Getting an ECOA. So when we did this whole thing, and obviously 5 hours happened, Chief Sadler mentioned how easy it is to get an SGI. It was actually just that easy because we ended up doing the exact same thing because the great state of Illinois decided to throw up a TFR because they did not know there were going to be 3 drones in there because there was actually 2 spotter drones. They only thought it was going to be 2. They thought the third was the media or somebody else, so they threw up a TFR. Well, that actually grounded all of our stuff until we got an ECOA to go ahead and fly and said TFR. Needless to say that the communication barrier between state, I'm talking like down in Springfield to where we're at, kind of broke down a little bit. And lastly, OB kits. Let me tell you, they're a very, very useful tool. What didn't go well for us? Well, every agency had a different kind of drone. So when it came to doing long sustained operations, because we were there for, at least I was there for 7 hours and other guys had already been there for 10. They were running down batteries. We kept having to swap drones and swap teams because some guys had Phantom 3s, some guys had Inspire 1s, some guys had Matrix 6, well, we had the Matrix 600. So trying to standardize, especially if you're gonna be doing mutual aid, is really critical. That way you can just say, you know what, keep flying, here's a battery, and being able to do that. So that's actually a really huge thing. I would have loved to have downlighting on the 600. And after this happened, I actually put a mounts on there to actually have to support some downlighting if I need to, just using lume cubes. And I keep those mounts on there because, again, I never know when I'm gonna have to do something like that again. For me, one thing I did not, and looking back at it, because I ended up being the air boss for this operation, but then when they asked to go ahead and fly this phone, everybody kind of did one of these, and I was kind of standing out in the middle. So I kind of got, trying to do it a little bit too much. It was pretty stressful, but again, we managed pretty well. And again, communications to the state incident commander and the actual state air operations down in Springfield, that communication kind of broke down a little bit. So from our perspective, that's what we learned and things that we try to do to help educate other agencies and try to make sure that those same mistakes don't happen again.
Awesome, thank you, Keenan. This was absolutely very well deserved. Again, it shows teamwork and using unconventional items, and that's one of the things I really love about the early adapters of the technology. They utilize the technology with additional equipment that we never thought of, and that helps us at DJI to really build solutions. So maybe next time it will be a little smoother. Maybe. Hopefully. All right. So next on, as you can see, we're moving from the East Coast to the Midwest, and now we're coming to Texas. And I'm very pleased to introduce to you Special Operations Firefighter Coitt Kessler. He is an 18-year veteran of the Austin Fire Department and is the program manager for AFD's Robotic Emergency Deployment RED team. Firefighter Kessler is a contributing member of an advisory group for the National Institute of Standards and Technologies, also known as NIST, on standard test methods for response robots, a work group member for the Public Safety Aviation Accreditation Commission for training and accreditation for UAS, a contributor to the 2017 Congressional Roadmap for Unmanned Systems, and represents the IAFF on the NFP's 2400 standard for small unmanned aircraft systems used for public safety operations. Coitt?
Thank you very much. Please don't ever put me behind Keenan again. That was awesome. That was awesome. All right. Hi, guys. My name is Coitt Kessler, and I'm the program manager, as Romeo mentioned, for the Robotic Emergency Deployment Team. Kind of a weird name. We just go by Red Team for short. It's, well, I guess we'll just go down the slide. We began back in 2014, January 2014, with a presentation to our executive team, and we haven't stopped since. We're now at 24 members, so that is it's a number that is a little ominous. It's a little difficult to work with, but we're just like everybody else in this row here. We're learning how to manage a lot of people and equipment. And if you have a program, I think you can appreciate that statement. We're a little bit different than some of the other UAS programs that you're hearing about, and that is we're using ground, aquatic, I have boats there, and UAS operations. So it makes this a little bit unique. It's fun. We get to work with a lot of the new technology, advancing emerging technology that is helping us solve some of the complex situations we find in disaster response. The ground robots, very similar to what you'd find in any other EOD program. The boats, for us in Texas, we have a lot of flooding, and we're finding that the ability to use multiple systems to solve our problems is kind of a win for us. So we're using our boats for both swiftwater, and then we have a sonar attachment that's going on to one of our newer boats we're receiving, and that's going to be to locate points of interest, bodies, in our local waters. So before we send the dive team in, we can get out overhead pretty quickly and use our side scan sonar on the boat. And then of course we have UAS. UAS is, again, from everybody up here, it's what we're using the most of. And I'll share a little story about an event that we had last March. So we have a lot of urban outdoorsmen in Austin, and in March, one of those individuals decided to get in a bottle of lighter fluid and just go out and terrorize the community. About, I think it's almost 8 miles of green belt, so 8 miles of heavily forested or brushed area. And I couldn't believe how fast this guy was moving. He was just running around lighting fires. And so we started seeing multiple fires throughout the downtown area, and this obviously creates a big problem for us with wildland-urban interface. We're all building into the brush line, so with these fires taking off and then being able to address that became a real issue. So we had both, you can see it from the upper right, our manned aircraft system that came out, or manned unit, excuse me, that came out and was dropping water, and then we had a tremendous amount of ground resources that we're out trying to find not only where these fires were starting at, but where the guy was going. The drone we just had one out there at that time, was able to work with both the manned aircraft and the ground units to locate the fires, provide an idea of where this guy was going, because you could see from an incipient fire, right, to something that was a little bit more developed, with a progression of where this person was traveling. And between the drone use and the aircraft flying over, we were able to track where this guy was moving, and subsequently we were able to make an arrest. Footage, and everybody in here understands that the drone has multiple uses. One of the things that the media wanted immediately was B-roll. So we were able to provide the media B-roll for the incident, and then we were able to use the rest of the shots for the investigations. At the end of the day, this knucklehead ended up with 9 felony counts because he ended up setting nine fires. And I think the actual report was he walked up to somebody and said, "I'm out of lighter fluid," and we were able at that time to be able to kind of get an idea where he was at and arrest him. So lessons learned for us: dispatch protocols. Who here has a drone program with dispatch protocols? Congratulations, good job. Not enough of you, right? And I'm in the same boat. In order to make this program work, we've got to be able to get on scene immediately. And it can't be something that our incident commanders think about. It has to be something that just happens automatically. It's a trigger mechanism that allows us just to respond. And that's not happening. That call right there came over a cell phone. "Hey, can you help us out?" not the right way of making this happen. So as we advance, as we start moving this program forward, we're going to have dispatch protocols put into place. Having the right equipment, we were using the Mavic, which was great. The pilot that we had was able to very quickly put his backpack on, hike in, and move around the incident very, very, very quickly, but we didn't have the thermal capability. Lesson learned is have the right tools for the right job. Coordination with both manned and unmanned units. So from that time on, we started working with our manned aircraft. So now we have some policy in place, which is very important. It's all written down. We have training that we're doing now on a regular basis with our manned aircraft. So we're taking our aircraft out, flying over, providing lat and long to the aircraft, communicating over the radio, and then the aircraft comes over, we'll find the target, if it's a victim in the water, or to drop water on to, in this case, an area that is burning. And I think we're making some really good headway with our manned community. Not a threat, just a way to help each other out. And the last piece here is incident command. So I'm sure that many of you in this room are finding that when you come up to your boss and you show them the picture, a couple of things can happen. One is they look very confused. Two is maybe they look very happy that you can show them what's going on. And three is that they're unable to get away from you, right? They just become focused on what's going on. And I'm hoping that we'll be able to address this in some questions here in a little bit. But I think the next level for us is educating our incident commanders on what these things can't do, what they can do, and how they use that information, right? We're all building programs, but now we've got to talk to the bosses. And these were I think some good lessons that we pulled from this particular event.
Actually, keep the microphone there.
Right.
That too. Thank you very much, Coitt. Not only are we now moving into law enforcement, it must be Barry. All right, let's try this again. Not only are we moving now into law enforcement, but I'm super excited to introduce another local legend, Barry Moore. And he is the UAS pilot for Mansfield Police Department here in Texas. Barry has been a police officer with the city of Mansfield for 24 years. He started his police career as a patrolman and worked in patrol division for 3 years. He joined the SWAT team for 8 years, and Barry worked undercover in the west sector of Fort Worth for 2 years with the Narcotic Task Force, and then transferred to criminal investigations, where he worked for 18 years as a major case detective. For the last 3 years, Barry has started the first police UAS program for the city of Mansfield and was the first full-time UAS unit in the state of Texas. Barry has helped with the development of the Public Safety UAS Support Team, PSURT, which now has over 15 cities participating. Barry is currently also working with DJI, helping to develop drones for rapid deployment for emergency services. And Barry is working with the North Central Texas Council of Government to form a statewide standardized training program for emergency service. Thank you for being here, Barry.
Thank you. That sounded really good, too. Golly, did all that. Wow. Like you said, we started our FART program probably 4 years ago with the city of Mansfield. I had a chief that was very progressive, wanted us to start a program. After I went to him and talked to him about all the ambushes that were taking place in the Metroplex in the area, I said, there's got to be a way we can do something to counteract that, maybe keep these officers safe, get eyes on them before an incident might take place. So with that, my whole goal was to put a program together that would keep officers safe, and that's kind of what we did here. Nice slide there. We don't want that. I'm going to show you a little bit about our units. This is our setup. We have 2 full-time UAS pilots. My partner's in the back. We were like K9 units. We set our units up for rapid deployment. We file our NOTAMs and everything 3 months in advance, so we have 90-day NOTAMs for our area. We have our COA, our jurisdictional COAs, our blanket COAs, and so we're available to respond to any call that might come out in the city. Mansfield's a population of, we're pushing 80,000, 90,000 people now. We'll be over 100,000 soon. So we're a growing community, so the need arises all the time for UAS, and we fly constantly. We work our shifts, and that's what we do. Our units are set up in the back. All of our equipment is set up in the back for rapid deployment. We have 210s. As you can't see the TV in the back, there's a monitor back there where command staff can come back and see what's going on if we're called out to a SWAT standoff or accident scenes, missing persons, anything that might occur whenever you're on shift. Where our setup is here, post-flight inspection, pre-flight inspections are done daily. That's important. Make sure you maintain your equipment. We fly daily. We're that busy. Just a couple of quick slides here of how things are set up in the car. Garrett and I designed this. Garrett's a genius when it comes to these things, and he and I just sat down one day and we started working through what we needed to do to get rapid deployment for UAS. The 210, just like they said, I can't praise it enough. I've kind of, been flying it now for over a year, and it's just a good piece of equipment, very weatherproof, and we're doing a lot with the 210. What I'm going to show you is a use case here, and before I show the slide, this is why I got into it. I got into it for officer safety, and I said if I saved one officer, it would be worth anything we spent, any money we spent. So I got a call to go out and assist Johnson County Sheriff's Department. They had a suicidal person that was out in the field. They said, "Hey, Barry, can you come out and see if you can locate this guy for me? We're fixing to send a team out. We don't know if he's armed, but we'd love to get you out here to help us." I said, "Absolutely, I'll be out in a few minutes." I get out there, I get on the scene, they're fixing to deploy. I said, "Hey, don't deploy, wait. Let us get up in the air and at least get ahead of you. That way we can kind of see things that are going on." Right here, as you can see, it's going to be a quick clip because it is a pending case, so we don't want to go into too many details on the suspect or anything. I use the word gentleman loosely on this guy. But what he's doing, he's crouched over a fence and he's got a .308 rifle and he's waiting for the deputies to come out of the field so where he can ambush them. He's got a perfect ambush spot for them. So if I can say anything to the crowds here, this is why we do this. This isn't the toys and going and finding stolen cars and all that good stuff. Don't run your programs by doing things that might create case law for the rest of us, okay? This is the main purpose we want drones in the air, to keep officers safe. If we can prevent ambushes, this is what we want to do. What we did on this case is we radioed back to the deputies. They took cover. They got on the PA. They started talking to this guy. I followed him all the way out. He's out with his rifle. He's walking across on what was a tank. It's actually I'll say a pond for non-Texans here. So as he's going across it, he's got the .308 rifle in his hand. And I'm thinking, oh gosh, I'm fixing to film the first killing of a suspect because the snipers, the AR guys were waiting for him and they were just fixing to pull the trigger when he decided he was going to put the rifle down. He puts the rifle down, they go take him into custody, he's safe, the officers are safe, and end of story. And that day, we know we saved lives, and that was the main reason. That's exactly why we decided we wanted to do this. For the drones to get up and get ahead of the officers in any situation to prevent ambush situations, that's what you want. So if anything I could take that I could say we would do differently on this is educating those deputies, because if I hadn't have said don't go out there, they would have went ahead and went out into the fields looking for him. So instead of just educating your departments, educate the departments around you that don't have them as well. See if you can get a minute to go to their briefings or their roll call, and just talk to them. So, hey, this is it. This is what we can do for you. If you ever have anything, take a few minutes, take a step back. We can get the drones up and find these guys for you. I can tell you that the equipment we use, the Z30 camera, is outstanding. If you don't have one for your department, get one. It's a night and day different. Your XT cameras are the FLIR at night. We've found burglary suspects hiding on rooftops. And if we use it for burglary details. If we have a targeted area that's getting hit with burglaries, we've caught burglars in targeted areas. So you keep thinking out of the box with these things, because it's just going to continue to grow. And I think as the technology grows, it's just going to get better. And I think we're going to save a lot more lives with them. So anyway, I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, Barry. one really great point here is, Barry's absolutely right. What we're also seeing out in the field is that this technology not only helps the civilians out there, but helping public safety, staying more safe, has a direct benefit to everyone. A department will not lose somebody to injury or death, which means the teams can work together. There's less expenses on a city level. So there are so many side benefits that we sometimes don't think about. So thank you very much for pointing this out. And now I'm very excited to head over to California and introduce you to Officer Matt Slawson is with the Torrance Police Department, which is located just outside of Los Angeles. He is currently assigned to patrol and one founding member of their UAS program. Matt has been a police officer for 10 years, 8 years with Torrance Police, and then 2 years with the LA County Sheriff's Office. He has a technical background in license plate recognition cameras, surveillance cameras and trackers, radio communications, and drones. Having operated UAVs for the past 4 years, he brings a lot of experience to the department, is well versed with FAA regulations, Part 107 waivers, and public safety COAs. Please welcome Matt.
Thank you very much. That's a hard one to follow from Mansfield. I'll give it a shot. So thanks for the introduction. So yeah, we're about 25 miles south of downtown LA. We're about 21 square miles, about 140,000 residents or so. LA, as you know, is one of the most complicated airspaces in the world. All the overlapping airspace has been fun to deal with. Pretty much our entire city is covered by a controlled airspace, so we had to get a waiver right off the bat just to operate. One of the founding members of our program, we started researching back in 2016, trying to find out if we could have a program at our department. We talked to other agencies up in Alameda County and Ventura County Sheriffs in California and kind of get their thoughts. We went live in March of 2017. To date, we've flown over 150 missions since then. We've had about 10 suspect finds. We supported numerous neighboring agencies who give us a call for help with their programs and also on their searches and perimeters and so forth. We work really closely with FAA representatives. And first, I just want to give a shout out to the SGI office. We have someone here in the audience here who came along with us, and all the success stories of how easy it is to work with them. I want to say thank you very much. So we really appreciate that. It wouldn't be possible without your help. We have a blanket COA to operate, and we also have a Part 107 airspace waiver. We're actually the first, my understanding is after confirming with the FAA, we're kind of a fun fact, we're the first agency, public safety agency in the country to receive a Part 107 airspace waiver. So there were some more before us. Part 107 pilots, we were the first department, so it was pretty neat. Our fleet right now, we have 2 M210s. We have the first XT FLIR. We should be getting the new one, the XT2, next month. We started out with 6 Phantom 3 Pros that we still use and train with, and we have a Spark, which we use for indoor stuff. So what I'm going to talk about real quick is integration with manned air support. We don't have a helicopter program in our department, but we use the LA Sheriffs, LAPD, some neighboring agencies. So it's been a lot of fun working together. At first, we didn't think it was possible, but so far we've flown about 6 or 7 times in conjunction with the police helicopter right above us. So as long as you have that communication, which is extremely important, obviously, over the radio, make sure you're on the same page, train together, it is possible. So obviously, drones are never going to replace helicopters, maybe in a long time from now, but with pursuits and so forth, you know, the airship is always going to offer a great resource to us, but the drones kind of fill in the gaps, and we'll show you some of that. So this incident was a residential burglary. Resident came home and there was someone in their house. It was about 3 in the afternoon on a weekday. Suspect ran out in the neighborhood. We set up a perimeter, and what you're going to see is the suspect is purposely looking at the helicopter, waiting for the helicopter to do its orbit, right? So the helicopter's orbiting, and that's when he'll look up and start to move. He had no idea the drone was there, so it's kind of interesting to watch. You'll see here. So the audio mainly you're hearing is the police helicopter above us. I had no idea it was there. That's his hiding spot up against the wall. So if you notice the helicopter, this is the first time working with this particular police helicopter. They were telling us, hey, we keep losing them on our orbit, so if you guys can just keep a constant eye on them. Just fun fact, this guy here was 16 years old, lived in South Central LA, and had 3 kids already. So that's about 60 feet or so, 40 to 60 we're going between. We're going to talk about that right after this, actually. So this portion right here where he's hiding in the corner and makes a run for it, the helicopter actually lost that entire spot, so he didn't see where he went. Single. Here comes the land shark. See, you'll see the tree shake a little bit, and then he's done. Yeah. Ran out of SD card space here. So, we could have done better. You brought up a great point. This is, like I said, the first time working with this particular airship. Afterwards, we debriefed it and said, why are we calling it? You know, normally the airships are calling the traffic and seeing what, saying what they're seeing. Why are we doing it if we're losing them half the time? You guys should be on the air calling it. So we're going to start incorporating that change. Another thing I'm putting here is we're getting our spark ready, the small drone. I mean, it would have been great to drop that spark down right in the backyard. The video you're seeing was from the 210, so we're not going to drop that down between the trees and the lines. But having the spark there would have been great. So thank you, and I think we're going to open up for questions soon.
Thank you very much, Matt. What we learned from all of this is a big thank you, yes, to the FAA. It's amazing to see a federal entity work as fast in a very complex environment as the FAA, and I keep hearing that across the United States, that the whole process to get either waivers or a COA or any kind of advice has gotten so much better across the United States, and I think that that's a really great sign that the technology is maturing, the understanding is maturing, and the use cases, what we've heard from these 5 gentlemen, are helping the whole cause of not only opening up the skies, but also getting, public buy-in. And we purposely chose fire as well as law enforcement on this particular panel because both sets have challenges and sometimes different type of challenges. And so I do want to ask the panelists on some of the challenges that they have come across either within their cities or counties or even their own departments. So is there anything that you can share, Chris?
Probably one of the biggest things that we're challenged with right now on our end is in Southeast Virginia, where I'm from, there's only 2 law enforcement agencies that have aircraft. One is the City of Virginia Beach Police Department. They have a helicopter that's kind of a part-time. They don't run it full-time. And then the state police have a helicopter in Richmond. And trying to bridge that gap between UAS and manned aircraft is really killing us. Because I think unlike probably the California and maybe even here in the Dallas area where the agencies that are using UAS also have manned aircraft divisions within their entities, so they kind of have to work together. With us, we have nobody really telling the manned aircraft to work with us. So we're having to go out and be our own advocates to try to bridge that gap between us needing to fly and, of course, wanting to fly, and the manned aircraft thinking that we're gonna crash into their aircraft. So the issue of manned or unmanned public safety aircraft, where we have communication with the manned aircraft, and we have probably more stringent rules and regulations, and we're definitely more heavily regulated than the hobbyist and the commercial 107 pilots that they have no communication with and no idea where they're flying or what they're doing. So trying to bridge that gap is where we're, as a public safety UAS community in Southeast Virginia, that's what we're trying to work on. So we're working to set up a meeting with the State Police Aviation Wing, with the local medevacs. We have 3 medevac helicopters in our area. News media, actually, above all of them, the news media has been the greatest to work with. They've got 0 issues. You know, I just think they're glad to be in the air and whatever. I mean, they even have, most of them have their own drones too. So they're kind of doing their own thing. But that's where we see the biggest issue. And probably the second thing would be all the entities that we fly for outside of our jurisdiction. In some cases, the state has requested us to go out there and fly, although the locality itself did not want us to be there. Once we get there and show them the information that we can provide them, they become our biggest fans. So we need to be better on the front end of working with these other localities, particularly as we're one of 2 agencies or one of 2 UAS teams of Virginia that are state asset teams. We need to go out and sell ourselves to these agencies ahead of time. So when we show up, we're not already on the negative side of them. They already know what our capabilities are, and when we get there, they're glad that we're there, not upset that we're there. So we've got to work on better marketing for the other agencies that have not realized what a great asset UAS is yet.
Thank you very much, Chris. And you know, early on, one thing that we noticed was that the operator of the drone is in essence kind of the data bottleneck. See, not just me. I just cut it off. It's not just the data operator or the drone operator is a data bottleneck, because now he or she has the information. Potentially, the incident commander comes over, looks over the shoulder. Now you have 2 people that are tied up. And Coitt, you mentioned something to the fact that we need to educate our command staff on what the technology can do, what it looks like, and what data we can get out of it. Do you have any recommendations on how to go about this?
No.
Yeah, I think it's just spending time with the bosses. Yeah, it doesn't. If we keep this to ourselves, we're just not going to win. We've got to get out in the training, and that unfortunately is really tough because the bosses are worried about toilet paper. The bosses are worried about stations. They're worried about fuel. They're worried about discipline issues. They have so many things going on top of their tactical issues and their strategic planning, right? So now we're just throwing something else at them. It's a problem. So we've got to figure out a way to just give this to them, be a part of their world, provide training, invite them out, make sure that they're able to see what they have. And then I think as a community here, we're learning what works best for our people. What kind of data? How does that data, is it video? I don't know. Maybe it's something else. It's a combination of things, and I don't think we get that unless we practice. And everybody in this room has been saying this, said this today. Wayne and Garrett were very good about saying, get it out, use it. And I think that's all I got.